6 weeks after the Proxima Centauri attack, Krelvery High Commander Zorak stood in the command center of their forward military base on Cygnus IV. His compound eyes flashed red and purple with frustration as he stared at the status displays. "How? Did they breach our security again?" he demanded, mandibles clicking rapidly. "This is the 4th critical system failure this cycle." His subordinate, Science Officer Melix, examined the corrupted code on the display. "It appears to be another human attack algorithm, sir, but it's unlike anything we've encountered before. Each attack uses completely different methods. There's no pattern for us to predict or defend against." Across Krelvari space, chaos was spreading. The humans were not fighting the way the Krelvari had expected. Instead of massing their fleet for a direct confrontation where the Krelvari held all the advantages, the humans had launched hundreds of small, swift strikes at key targets throughout Krelvari territory. Colonel Lisa Martinez led one of these Special Forces teams. Her squad had just finished planting explosive devices at a Krelvari fuel processing facility near the border of human space. They moved silently through the alien complex, wearing adaptive camouflage suits developed specifically for this mission. "Timer set for 30 minutes, whispered Sergeant Joe Kelly, the team's explosives expert. "That should give us plenty of time to reach the extraction point." Lisa nodded. "Good work. Let's move." Their mission wasn't just to destroy the facility. That was only part of the objective. The fuel depot would be rebuilt eventually. The real goal was to create fear and uncertainty among the Krelvari forces. Each human strike team left behind a small metal coin with Earth's symbol stamped on it, a calling card to let the Krelvari know who had been there. Some teams disabled security systems without causing any damage, just to prove they could have if they wanted to. Others left messages in the Krelvari language, showing that humans were learning about their enemy faster than expected. Meanwhile, on the Krelvari homeworld, Ambassador Greg Nelson continued diplomatic talks, presenting reasonable terms for peace. The Krelvari leaders were confused by this approach. The humans were attacking their facilities while simultaneously offering peaceful solutions. It made no logical sense to the orderly Krelvari mind. What the Krelvari didn't understand was that this confusion was intentional. Humans had studied their enemy and discovered that the Krelvari struggled with contradictions and unpredictability. Their society valued order and clear patterns. Humans excelled at chaos. In orbit around a Krelvari mining world, Commander Olivia Chen watched through her view screen as her squadron of modified human ships approached their target. The ships had been disguised to appear as Krelvari transport vessels on enemy scanners. "All ships, maintain radio silence," she ordered through the secure channel. "Weapons hot only on my command." The 12 human vessels moved into position around the Krelvari defense platforms. The platform's sensors registered them as friendly ships and allowed them to approach without raising alarms. "Now," Olivia said calmly. In perfect synchronization, all 12 ships fired their newly modified weapons. The energy beams, altered to match the specific frequency that could penetrate Krelvari shields, sliced through the defense platforms. Within minutes, the orbital defenses were disabled without a single alarm being triggered. "Phase 2, Olivia ordered. Small pods launched from each human ship, carrying teams of engineers and computer specialists. They would board the damaged platforms, extract valuable technology, and plant devices that would allow humans to monitor Krelvari communications in this sector for months. Back on Earth, Dr. Howard Lewis worked with a team of scientists to analyze the Krelvari technology captured in these raids. In just 6 weeks, they had made remarkable progress in understanding and adapting alien systems for human use. "Their technology is advanced," Howard explained to General Kate Murphy during a briefing, "but it's also rigid. They don't innovate quickly. Once they develop a system that works, they stick with it for decades, maybe centuries." He displayed diagrams of Krelvari shield systems and weapons. "We've already found 3 weaknesses in their standard shield configuration. Our new torpedoes can exploit these weaknesses with an 87% success rate." Kate nodded with satisfaction. "How long until we can equip the entire fleet?" 2 weeks for the first batch. Full deployment within a month," Howard replied. The humans' rapid adaptation was something the Krelvery had never encountered before. Most species they had fought either had similar technology to their own, or were so far behind that they posed no real threat. Humans were different. They started at a disadvantage but were closing the gap with alarming speed. On the Krelvari War Council, debates raged about how to respond to the human tactics. "They're not fighting honorably," exclaimed military strategist Vexnar. "These hit-and-run attacks, these disguises and tricks. This is not how civilized species conduct warfare." High Commander Zorax clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. "Yet it is effective. We've lost 17 supply depots, 5 communication hubs, and 3 shipyards. Our forces are stretched thin, trying to protect all possible targets. We should assemble our main battle fleet and destroy their home planet," Vexnar suggested. "End this quickly with overwhelming force. Their home system is now heavily defended," countered Intelligence Director Krizax, "and we cannot locate all their colony worlds. They've hidden some of them using technology we don't understand." The truth was even more disturbing than the Krelvari realized. Humans had not only been adapting Krelvari technology, but had also been forming alliances with other alien species who had grievances against the Dominion. Captain Ryan Foster had led diplomatic missions to 3 different civilizations that had lost territory to Krelvari expansion. These species were now providing humans with intelligence, resources, and safe havens for their strike teams. Ryan sat in a meeting with representatives of the Galatri, a species of tall, slender beings with pale skin that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. "The Krelvari took 3 of our outer colonies 50 years ago," said the Galatri leader, Shimmerwave. "We could not fight them then, but we will help you fight them now." "Thank you," Ryan replied. "With your sensor technology and our new weapons, we can hit targets deeper in Krelvari space than ever before." Across the galaxy, the war continued to expand. The Krelvari, used to quick victories against inferior opponents, found themselves facing an enemy that refused to follow the expected rules of engagement. Humans struck without warning, vanished before retaliation could arrive, and constantly changed their tactics. Most disturbing to the Krelvari High Command was the psychological element of human warfare. The small human teams would leave evidence of their presence in supposedly secure locations, creating paranoia among Krelvari forces. Some Krelvari commanders began to see humans everywhere, jumping at shadows and mistrusting their own security systems. "They don't fight like a civilized species," Zorax complained to the Krelvari High Council. "They fight like predators." The comparison was more accurate than he knew. Humans had evolved as persistence hunters on a world filled with dangers. They had learned to track prey over long distances, to adapt to changing conditions, and to use tools and teamwork to bring down creatures much larger and stronger than themselves. Now, the entire Krelvari dominion was their prey, and the hunt had only just begun. In her office on Earth, General Kate Murphy reviewed the latest intelligence reports with grim satisfaction. Operation Thunderstrike was proceeding even better than expected. The Krelvari were off balance, confused by human tactics and struggling to respond effectively. "Phase 1 is complete," she told President Carter over a secure channel. "The Krelvari now understand that declaring war on humanity was a serious mistake. It's time to begin Phase 2. The president nodded. "The ultimate weapon?" "Yes," Kate replied. "It's time to show the Krelvari what humans are truly capable of." The emergency meeting room at Earth Defense Headquarters was filled with grim faces. General Kate Murphy stood at the front, her gray hair pulled back in a tight bun, her uniform perfectly pressed, despite having been awake for nearly 30 hours. On the large screen behind her were images of destroyed human ships and the data from the battle at Proxima Centauri. 4 ships destroyed, 3 severely damaged, 623 personnel dead, she said, her voice steady but heavy with the weight of the losses. "This is the worst attack on human forces since we began space exploration." President William Carter sat at the center of the long table, his face showing the strain of the crisis. Around him were the highest-ranking military officers and government officials of the United Earth government. "And the colony?" the president asked. "Safe, for now," Kate replied. Commander Wilson's fleet managed to hold off the Krilvari long enough for Admiral Ward's reinforcements to arrive. The Krilvari retreated after that, but they left us a message saying they would return with a larger force in 2 weeks. They still demand we abandon the colony. Admiral Paul Johnson, head of the Earth Defense Fleet, leaned forward. That's not their only demand anymore. We've received a formal communication from their central government. He touched a control pad, and new text appeared on the screen. They now claim sovereignty over nearly a third of our explored space, including 3 of our most established colonies. According to them, their claim predates our arrival by centuries. The room filled with angry murmurs. We've been in those systems for decades, said Defense Secretary George Walton. We found no signs of any prior claims, no markers, no signals, nothing. The Krilvari say that doesn't matter, Paul explained. They believe their verbal declaration of intent to one day expand into those regions is enough to establish their claim, even without physical presence. President Carter rubbed his temples. What are our options? Kate pressed another button, and a tactical display replaced the text. The Krilvari have technological advantages. Their ships are larger, their weapons more powerful, and their shields stronger. In direct combat, ship against ship, we're outmatched. So we surrender our colonies? Asked Vice President Laura Martinez, her voice sharp with disapproval. No, Kate said firmly. We fight, but we don't fight the way they expect us to. For the next hour, Earth's leaders discussed the plan that Kate and her team had developed. It was risky and unconventional, but it played to humanity's strengths. The Krilvari pride themselves on being logical and methodical, explained Intelligence Director Frank Dixon. From what we know of them through our contact with other alien species, they expect their enemies to be predictable. They believe in overwhelming force applied directly. But that's not how humans fight, said Paul with a small smile. Not when we're outgunned. Kate nodded. Exactly. Throughout our history, when faced with a stronger enemy, humans have turned to guerrilla tactics, psychological warfare, and unconventional strategies. We adapt, we improvise, we find weaknesses and exploit them. She brought up new images on the screen, showing detailed scans of the Krilvari ships from the battle. Commander Wilson's fleet managed to damage one of their vessels by focusing fire on a single point. Our engineers have analyzed the data and identified potential vulnerabilities in their shield systems, and we've already begun working on adapting our weapons to be more effective against their specific technology. What about our colonies? Asked President Carter. How do we protect our people? We evacuate the most vulnerable settlements, Kate said. But not Proxima Centauri and not our other established colonies. Those we defend with everything we have, while simultaneously taking the fight to the Krilvari in ways they won't expect. Frank stepped forward. We've been gathering intelligence on the Krilvari through our allies. They've never faced a species like humans before. Most of the civilizations they've conquered gave up after the first show of force, or tried to fight, conventionally, and lost. They think we'll do the same, Paul added. They're wrong. President Carter looked at each person around the table. This plan means war, a real war, not just a border skirmish. Are we ready for that? Admiral Nancy Ward, who had led the reinforcements at Proxima Centauri, spoke up for the first time. Mr. President, the Krilvari fired the first shot. They destroyed our ships and killed our people without provocation. They've declared our rightful colonies illegal. They've already started this war. The question isn't whether we're ready, Kate said quietly. It's whether they're ready for us. After 2 more hours of discussion, the plan was approved. Operation Thunderstrike would begin immediately. Earth's factories would be converted to war production. The fleet would be mobilized. Special forces, teams would be assembled for covert operations. As the meeting ended, President Carter asked Kate to stay behind. General, he said when they were alone, be honest with me. Can we win this? Kate thought carefully before answering. The Krilvari are powerful, Mr. President. They have more ships, more advanced technology, and control more territory than we do. By conventional measures, we're outmatched. She walked to the window, looking out at the glittering lights of New Washington. But humans aren't conventional. We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us daily. We survived ice ages and asteroid impacts. We endured plagues and nuclear standoffs. Our history is filled with examples of smaller forces defeating larger ones through creativity, determination, and sheer stubbornness. She turned back to face him. The Krelvari think they're the apex predators of the galaxy. They've never met a species that hunted by exhausting faster, stronger prey through endurance and teamwork. They've never faced an enemy that thrives in chaos and adapts to new threats rapidly. The president nodded slowly. We've fought ourselves, more than anyone else. Exactly, Kate said. Sad as it is, our history of conflict has prepared us for this moment. We know war in ways the Krelvari can't imagine. They think war is about superior force. We know it's about will. She picked up her tablet and showed him images from human history. Ancient Greeks at Thermopylae, American revolutionaries using guerrilla tactics against the British, resistance fighters in occupied territories during World War II, and modern, special forces operations. Time and again, humans have found ways to defeat enemies who should have crushed them by conventional logic. We're going to show the Krelvari why declaring war on humanity was the worst mistake they could have made. President, Carter stood, his resolve strengthened. Begin the operation, General, and make sure our people throughout human space know one thing. We will not abandon them and we will not surrender. As Kate left the meeting room, she felt the enormous responsibility on her shoulders. The coming war would be unlike anything humanity had faced before, but she also felt a grim determination. The Krelvari had attacked without understanding who they were fighting. They would learn soon enough. In orbit above Earth, the shipyards were already buzzing with activity. Engineers were modifying weapon systems based on data from the Proxima Centauri battle. Special forces teams were training for operations in alien environments. Intelligence officers were analyzing everything known about Krelvari psychology and culture, looking for weaknesses to exploit. Humanity was going to war, and the Krelvari had no idea what was coming for them. The space around Proxima Centauri was quiet. Too quiet. Commander Jack Wilson stood on the bridge of the EDF Valiant, his eyes fixed on the main screen. 5 alien ships hung in the darkness ahead. They were huge, at least 3 times the size of the largest human vessels. Their hulls were dark gray with glowing blue lines running along their sides. These were the ships of the Krelvari Dominion. Are they responding to our hails? Jack asked, his voice cutting through the tense silence on the bridge. Lieutenant Susan, Miller shook her head. Nothing yet, sir. We've been broadcasting on all frequencies for 20 minutes. Jack rubbed his chin, feeling the stubble from too many hours on duty. This was humanity's first direct contact with the Krelvari. Until now, humans had only heard stories about them from other alien species they had met during their expansion into space. None of those stories were comforting. Keep trying, Jack ordered, and make sure our weapons are ready, just in case. Susan nodded and turned back to her console. The bridge crew worked quietly, each person aware of how important this meeting was. Humanity had been exploring space for only 50 years. They had built colonies on several planets, including one on Proxima Centauri b, the closest star system, to Earth. They had met a few alien species, most of them friendly or at least neutral. The Krelvari were different. They controlled a large part of the galaxy and were known for their advanced technology and aggressive expansion. Sir, we're getting a signal, said Communications Officer Alan Brooks suddenly. They want to open a video channel. Jack straightened, his uniform. Put them on screen. The main screen flickered and an alien face appeared. The Krelvari had a head that looked similar to an insect, with large compound eyes that shimmered with colors. 4 mandibles surrounded a small mouth. Its skin was a pale blue color with patterns of darker blue across its face. I am Ambassador Zex Kral of the Krelvari Dominion, the alien said, its voice translated by the ship's computer. You are trespassing in Krelvari space. Identify yourselves immediately. Jack stepped forward. I am Commander Jack Wilson of the Earth Defense Fleet. We represent humanity and the United Earth Government. We were not aware this was Krelvari territory. We come in peace and wish to establish diplomatic relations. The alien's eyes flashed with colors. Jack had been told this was how the Krelvari showed emotions, but he had no idea what the colors meant. You claim ignorance of our territorial boundaries? Ambassador Zexkral asked. Your kind has established a colony on the third planet of this system. This is a direct violation of Krelvari sovereignty. Jack felt a cold feeling in his stomach. The human colony on Proxima Centauri b had been there for 20 years. It was home to over 50,000 people. Ambassador, we have had a settlement. On that planet for 2 decades, Jack explained carefully. We found no signs of prior claims when we arrived. Perhaps we can discuss this misunderstanding and come to an agreement that there is no misunderstanding, the Krelvari interrupted. The Dominion has claimed this sector for 300 of your Earth years. Your ignorance is not an excuse. You will remove your colony within 3 of your Earth days, or we will remove it for you. The bridge fell silent. Jack tried to keep his face calm, but inside he was worried. The colony couldn't be evacuated in 3 days. It would take weeks, maybe months, to safely move everyone. Ambassador, that timeline is impossible, Jack said. We need more time to safely move our people. Perhaps we can discuss. This discussion is over, the Krelvari said coldly. 3 days, Commander. After that, the Dominion will take action. The screen went dark. They've cut the transmission, Alan reported. Jack turned to his second-in-command, Commander Diane Peters. Send an emergency message to Earth Command, Priority Alpha. Tell them everything that happened and that we need immediate reinforcements. Yes, sir, Diane replied, moving quickly to carry out the order. Sir? Susan called from her station, voice tight with alarm. The Krelvari ships are powering up their weapon systems. They're targeting us. Jack's mind raced. This wasn't supposed to happen. This was meant to be a peaceful first contact meeting. Raise shields, power up weapons, he ordered, and open a channel to the Krelvari. Before Alan could comply, bright beams of energy shot from the largest Krelvari ship. They sliced through 2 of the smaller human vessels that had accompanied the Valiant. The ships exploded in silent bursts of fire and debris. Return fire, Jack shouted as the bridge erupted into chaos. All ships defensive pattern Delta. The remaining human ships, including the Valiant, began firing back while moving to protect each other. Their weapons were weaker than the Krelvaris, but they hit their targets. Direct hit on the nearest Krelvari vessel, Susan reported. Minimal damage to their outer hull. Another energy beam struck the Valiant, making the whole ship shake. Warning alarms blared throughout the bridge. Shields at 60%, called engineer Gary Foster from his station. One more hit like that and we're in trouble. Jack gripped the armrests of his command chair. They were outgunned and outnumbered. But humans had one advantage the Krelvari didn't know about yet. They were survivors. Humanity had fought countless wars against themselves before reaching the stars. They had faced extinction many times and always found a way to endure. Tactical, target their weapon systems, Jack ordered. Communications, send a message to the colony. Tell them to activate their defense grid and begin emergency protocols. As his crew carried out his orders, Jack watched the battle unfold on the main screen. Another human ship was hit, its engines failing as it drifted out of formation. Sir, should we retreat? Diane asked quietly beside him. Jack shook his head. No. If we run, they'll attack the colony immediately. We need to buy time for Earth Command to send help. He looked at his crew, determination in his eyes. We stand our ground. The Valiant rocked again as another beam struck them. Shields, at 30%, Gary reported. Jack opened a channel to all remaining human ships. This is Commander Wilson. Focus all fire on the lead Krelvari vessel. Aim for the same spot on their hull. We need to show them humans aren't easy prey. Battle continued, space lighting up with weapons fire. The human ships moved in perfect coordination, using tactics developed over centuries of warfare on Earth. They were smaller and faster than the Krelvari vessels, using this advantage to avoid some of the enemy fire while landing precision strikes. After several minutes of intense fighting, one of the human ships managed to breach the shields of a Krelvari vessel, causing visible damage to its hull. We've hurt them, Susan said with grim satisfaction. But it wasn't enough. 2 more human ships were destroyed, their crews lost in seconds. Sir, Alan called out, we're receiving a transmission from Admiral Nancy Ward. A reinforcement fleet has jumped into the system and will reach our position in 20 minutes. Jack nodded, a small spark of hope growing. If they could hold out for 20 more minutes, they might survive this. All ships, new tactics, he ordered. Evasive pattern Omega, make them chase us. We need to stay alive until reinforcements arrive. What? The Krelvery didn't understand. What no alien species had yet discovered was that humans were far more dangerous than their technology suggested. Forged in the crucible of Earth's harshest environments and bloodiest conflicts, humans possessed unique combinations of ingenuity, adaptability, and sheer determination that made them lethal opponents. As the battle raged on around the Valiant, Jack Wilson made a silent promise to himself and to the colony they were defending. This attack would not go unanswered. The Krelvery had just made the biggest mistake in their history. They had declared war on humanity, and humans never, ever, gave up. 3 months into the war, Admiral Steve Rogers stood before the holographic display in Earth's main command center. The map showed Krelvery fleet movements throughout their territory. Large sections of the display were now marked in green, indicating areas where human forces had successfully disrupted Krelvery control. Their morale is breaking, Steve reported to the assembled military leaders. They've pulled back from their outer territories and consolidated their forces around their core worlds. They've abandoned nearly 40% of their claimed space. General Kate Murphy nodded with satisfaction. Humanity's unconventional strategy was working better than anyone had dared hope. Earth's scientific teams, led by Dr. Helen Martinez, had worked around the clock to adapt Krelvery technology for human use. Military forces continued their campaign of quick strikes and strategic sabotage, but despite these successes, a major problem remained. The Krelvery still held significant advantages in ship-to-ship combat and orbital weaponry. Their homeworld and core planets were heavily fortified. A direct assault would cost millions of human lives. That's why we don't need to attack them directly, said Colonel Donna Wright, stepping forward. She was the head of a secret project that few people even knew existed. Project Checkmate is ready. In a secure facility beneath the Martian surface, humanity had developed their ultimate weapon against the Krelvery. It wasn't a new bomb or energy cannon. It was something far more devastating to their rigid minds. Dr. Eric Thompson, the project's lead scientist, displayed a complex diagram on the main screen. The Krelvery neural network is both their greatest strength and their greatest vulnerability, he explained. Their minds are partially connected in a hive mind-like system. This allows for incredible coordination among their forces, but it also means they share certain psychological weaknesses. Kate leaned forward, studying the diagram carefully. Explain Project Checkmate in simple terms, Doctor. Eric smiled. Of course. Using captured Krelvery communication technology, we've developed a way to broadcast directly into their neural network. But we're not sending a computer virus or a typical cyber attack. We're sending something far more devastating to their rigid minds: human creativity. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Krelvery process information so, in a very literal linear way, Eric continued. Concepts like metaphor, irony, and cognitive dissonance are physically uncomfortable for them to process. Their brains simply don't have the neural pathways to handle these types of thinking. He brought up examples on the screen. Abstract art, paradoxical statements, jokes with double meanings, and complex music with multiple interweaving melodies. We've developed a carefully crafted broadcast that includes elements of human art, music, humor, and philosophy. When transmitted into their neural network, it will essentially give their entire civilization a massive headache. Not lethal, but extremely disruptive. President Carter, who had joined the meeting remotely, looked concerned. And this will force them to negotiate? Better than that, Donna replied. It will make them understand us. The Krelvery declared war because they couldn't comprehend how humans think. This will be educational for them. She explained that the broadcast would be paired with a final military push led by General Sam Lewis. This campaign wasn't designed to destroy the Krelvari, but to demonstrate human capabilities in ways they couldn't ignore. "We don't need to annihilate them," Sam explained. "We just need to show them that continuing this war is illogical by their own standards." Kate nodded her approval. "When can we launch the operation?" "The broadcast system is ready now," Eric said. "We've tested it on captured Krelvari and confirmed the effects. They experience intense confusion and disorientation, but no permanent damage. It's like showing an optical illusion to someone who's never seen one before. Their brains simply can't process it properly." "And our military forces?" Kate asked, turning to Sam. "We can begin the final push in 3 days," he replied. "All ships have been equipped with the new shield-penetrating weapons. The Galatri and our other allies are in position to support our operations." Kate turned to face the president's image on the screen. "Sir, with your permission, we'd like to proceed with Operation Checkmate." President Carter thought for a moment before responding. "The Krelvari attacked us without provocation. They've shown no mercy to our colonies or our people. But we're not like them." He paused, weighing his words carefully. "This plan gives us a chance to end this war without unnecessary bloodshed. You have my authorization." The next 3 days were filled with intense preparation. Ships moved into position around key Krelvari worlds. Special forces teams infiltrated communication hubs to ensure the broadcast would reach all parts of the Krelvari neural network. Earth's allies provided additional support, blocking potential escape routes for Krelvari fleets. On the day of the operation, Kate stood in the command center, watching as reports came in from across the battlefield. "All forces in position," Sam reported. "Ready to begin on your command." Kate took a deep breath. This was the moment that would determine humanity's future among the stars. If the plan failed, Earth and its colonies would face the full might of the Krelvari Dominion. If it succeeded, they would demonstrate to the galaxy that humans were not to be underestimated. "Begin Operation Checkmate," she ordered. Across Krelvari space, human ships launched their coordinated attack. They struck with precision, targeting military installations with their new weapons that cut through Krelvari shields like they weren't even there. At the same time, the broadcast began, transmitting directly into the Krelvari neural network. Security effects were immediate and dramatic. Krelvari ships began moving erratically as their crews struggled to cope with the strange sensations flooding their minds. Defense systems faltered as operators couldn't focus on their tasks. Across their worlds, Krelvari civilians and military personnel alike experienced something entirely new to their species: cognitive dissonance on a massive scale. On the Krelvari homeworld, High Commander Zorax clutched his head as waves of unfamiliar thoughts crashed through his mind. Images of human art that seemed to change meaning the longer he looked at them. Music that followed no logical pattern, yet somehow created emotional responses he couldn't understand. Jokes that required thinking, in 2 different ways simultaneously. "What is this?" he gasped to his advisors, who were similarly affected. One of the human ships broadcasting the signal also transmitted a message on all Krelvari frequencies. "This is General Kate Murphy of Earth. What you are experiencing is human creativity, our art, our music, our way of thinking. We could have sent a virus to destroy your neural network. We could have bombarded your worlds from orbit. Instead, we're sharing our culture with you. This is who we are. This is why you cannot defeat us. We offer you peace and understanding. The choice is yours." As the broadcast continued, human forces demonstrated their new capabilities. They disabled, but did not destroy, Krelvari defense platforms. They breached the shields of military headquarters, but only to place detailed plans showing how they could have destroyed each facility if they had chosen to. They surrounded the Krelvari homeworld with ships that could have launched devastating attacks, but instead just held position. The message was clear. Humans could win this war, but were choosing not to. After 6 hours of the broadcast, Kate gave the order to cease transmission. Human forces remained in position, waiting for the Krelvari response. It came 3 hours later, as the Krelvari minds cleared enough for them to communicate coherently again. "This is High Commander Zorax of the Krelvari Dominion," came the message, on the human command frequency. "We request a ceasefire and formal peace negotiations." In the Earth Command Center, cheers erupted. Kate allowed herself a small smile before responding. "Ceasefire granted, Commander. We await your delegation." President Carter's image appeared on the main screen, his expression both relieved and proud. "Well done, General. It seems your ultimate weapon was more effective than any bomb could have been." Kate nodded. "The Krelvari understand force, Mr. President. But today they learned something far more important. They learned about humanity. As the human fleet maintained their positions around Krelvari space, preparations began for peace talks that would reshape the power dynamics of the galaxy forever. High Commander Zorax entered the peace conference aboard the neutral space station orbiting Jupiter. His compound eyes scanned the room nervously. This was the first time he had been so close to humans without weapons between them. The human delegation, led by Ambassador Greg Nelson and Commander Jack Wilson, waited calmly at the large table. Zorax noticed that Jack Wilson was the same human commander who had faced the initial Krelvari attack at Proxima Centauri. His presence here seemed deliberate, a reminder of how this conflict had begun and how far things had changed. "Your species," Zorax began, his translator converting his clicks and chirps to English, "is unlike any we have encountered in our 1,000 years of expansion." Greg nodded politely but said nothing, giving Zorax space to continue. "We have reviewed the historical archives you provided after the broadcast," Zorax said, mandibles twitching slightly at the memory of the checkmate transmission. "Your species evolved on a planet that should have killed you many times over. You survived ice ages and asteroid impacts. You endured diseases and natural disasters. You even survived your own nuclear weapons." Jack leaned forward slightly. "We're not proud of all our history, Commander, but yes, it shaped us into who we are." Zorax's eyes flickered with colors that the humans now understood indicated deep thought and slight discomfort. "You fight wars against yourselves with more creativity and determination than most species fight against external threats. We did not understand this when we first encountered you." The peace conference continued for several days. The Krelvari delegation was clearly shaken by what they had learned about humanity. The checkmate broadcast had given them a glimpse into human minds, the contradictions, the creativity, the ability to think in ways that seemed impossible to Krelvari brains. On the third day, Zorax asked a question that had been troubling him. "Why did you not destroy us when you had the chance? Your ships surrounded our homeworld. Your weapons could penetrate our defenses. Yet you chose not to fire." Greg exchanged a glance with Jack before answering. "Because that's not who we want to be." "Yes, humans can be fierce warriors when threatened. Our history is filled with violence and conquest, but we're trying to be better than our past. We want to build rather than destroy." The peace treaty that formed over the next several days recognized human sovereignty over all existing colonies. It established clear boundaries between human and Krelvari space, with buffer zones to prevent future misunderstandings. Most importantly, it created a framework for cultural and scientific exchange. "Your species processes chaos and contradiction in ways ours cannot," Zorax admitted to Greg during a private moment between formal sessions. "We have technology and resources, but you have creativity." Greg smiled. "And together, we could accomplish more than either of us could alone." 6 months after the peace treaty was signed, the first Krelvari human joint venture was launched. A deep space exploration mission that combined Krelvari engineering with human adaptability. The ship, named New Understanding, carried scientists from both species to study phenomena at the edge of the galaxy. Dr. Peter Collins, the human scientific leader of the mission, worked closely with Krelvari science director Vexillara. At first, their different approaches caused friction. Peter liked to follow hunches and intuitive leaps, while Vexillara preferred methodical, step-by-step processes. But over time, they learned that combining both approaches led to discoveries neither would have made alone. Your method makes no logical sense, Vexillara complained one day after Peter suggested an unorthodox approach to studying a strange nebula they had discovered. Yet I must admit, the last 3 times I thought your ideas were irrational, they produced valuable results. Peter laughed. That's the beauty of human thinking. Sometimes we don't know why an idea will work. We just feel that it might. We call it intuition. A most disturbing concept, Vexillara replied, but her eye color showed what Peter had learned was the Krelvari equivalent of amused respect. Back on Earth, General Kate Murphy was promoted to oversee the new Interspecies Defense Coalition. Other alien civilizations, impressed by humanity's victory over the Krelvari Dominion, had reached out to form alliances. The galaxy was changing rapidly. Did you expect this outcome when you authorized Operation Checkmate? Admiral Paul Johnson asked her during the celebration of the first anniversary of the peace treaty. Kate shook her head. I hoped we could end the war without destroying each other. I never imagined we'd end up with the Krelvari as allies. Humans adapt, Paul said with a smile, and it seems we're teaching the Krelvari to adapt too. Across the settled worlds of both species, cultural exchange was flourishing. Humans were fascinated by Krelvari architecture and mathematical music, while the Krelvari were both confused and intrigued by human art, literature, and philosophy. Special teaching programs helped each species understand the other's way of thinking. Some young Krelvari even began to develop neural pathways that could process human concepts like metaphor and irony. It was painful at first, like learning to use new muscles, but those who persisted found themselves able to bridge the gap between the species in ways their elders could not. On the Krelvari homeworld, a museum dedicated to the war had been established. Unlike human war museums, which often focused on honoring fallen soldiers, this one was dedicated to understanding the enemy who had defeated them. Interactive displays helped Krelvari visitors comprehend human thinking patterns. One of the most popular exhibits was called The Mind of the Predator, which explained how humans' evolutionary history as hunters had shaped their approach to warfare. High Commander Zorax, now serving as the Krelvari ambassador to Earth, gave a speech at the museum's opening ceremony. 1 year ago, we believed ourselves to be the superior species, he said to the assembled crowd. We had conquered dozens of star systems. Our technology was advanced. Our military was powerful. Yet, we were defeated not by superior weapons but by superior thinking. He gestured to the human delegation in attendance. The humans could have destroyed us but chose to teach us instead. Only a truly advanced civilization shows mercy when victory is assured. After the ceremony, Zorax spoke privately with Commander Jack Wilson, the human whose fleet had first encountered the Krelvari at Proxima Centauri. Your people have a saying, Zorax said. Something about turning enemies into friends being the ultimate victory. Jack nodded. To have an enemy become a friend is the noblest victory. A most human concept, Zorax replied, his mandibles forming. What humans had taught him was a smile. Illogical, yet somehow correct. As other species throughout known space observed the growing alliance between humans and Krelvari, a new understanding spread across the galaxy. The humans, with their contradictory nature, capable of both terrible violence and extraordinary compassion, were not to be underestimated. When a representative from another alien confederation asked why the Krelvari had changed their stance on humanity so dramatically, Zorax's response became famous throughout known space. Because only fools make the same mistake twice. The humans showed us a better path forward than endless conflict. Besides, he added, eye colors brightening, would you want to be the next species to declare war on humanity? The answer, increasingly, was no.